All right, let's talk about something every single teacher grapples with. Finding that sweet spot of control in the classroom. How much is too much and when is too little, well, just not enough. Let's get into it.
Does this hit close to home at all? I think for a lot of us it does. This feeling, it's right at the heart of what we're exploring today. It's that constant tug of war between wanting to guide our students and worrying that maybe, just maybe, we're holding the reins a little too tight.
So, let's give this idea a name. We're talking about micromanagement. But here's the thing. It's not some simple on or off switch. It's really a spectrum, a whole sliding scale of control. Okay, so let's get a really clear definition on the table. Micromanagement is when we, the teachers, are directing every single detail. What the students do, where they do it, how they do it, and, even chiming in on how they can do it better every step of the way. It's constant, hands-on, minute-by-minute direction. And this visual lays it out perfectly. You've got high micromanagement way over on one side, and then no micromanagement on the other. So take a second and really think about your own classroom. Where do you think you land on this line most days? It probably changes, right? Depends on the class, the activity, maybe even how much coffee you've had.
To really get a handle on this, let's try to put ourselves in a student's shoes. Imagine a really simple task, okay? Like just writing an answer on the board. What does that feel like when a teacher is cranked all the way up to the high control end of the spectrum?
It might start off simply enough, right? The teacher's just organizing the flow, calling on students, deciding who's up next. Seems fine.
But then, the instructions start getting more and more specific. See, it's not just what to write anymore, it's exactly where to write it. It's controlling the physical space.
And then it just keeps going, fine-tuning every little detail. Immediate corrections on where she's writing, how big she's writing. It's overriding her own judgment at every single turn.
And here's the kicker. Even the simple act of noticing and fixing her own mistake is directed by the teacher. She isn't given the space to find the error herself, let alone correct it. Wow. You can almost feel how intense and stifling that is, can't you?
So if it can feel that, well, suffocating, why do so many of us default to this high control mode? And more importantly, maybe it's time we started asking ourselves if that default is actually serving our students. Well, a huge part of it is just based on what we've seen. We all spent thousands of hours as students ourselves watching teachers who kept a really tight grip on the classroom. It's the model we know. And honestly, it often feels like the only way to keep things from flying off the rails, especially when you're new to the job.
But what if that high control model has some hidden costs? This is where things get really interesting. Does planning out our students' every move actually stop them from learning how to manage their own work? Could learning maybe be even more focused if they had a bit more say in it? And this last one, this is a big one. You know the saying, nature abhors a vacuum? Well, what if it's true in the classroom? What if we step back and create a little space and our students actually step up to fill it?
These are some pretty powerful questions, right? But the good news is we don't just have to sit around and guess the answers. We can actually find out for ourselves. The source material for this whole discussion lays out a super simple, low-stakes experiment you can run to get real data from your very own classroom.
So here's the plan, and it's broken down into 3 simple stages. You take the same type of task and run it 3 times. First, you do it with intentionally high control. You're the director. Then you try it with low control, where you deliberately hold back. And finally, you give it a shot with no control. You give the instructions, and then you're completely hands-off.
And just look at what this means in the real world. In the high control column, you are running the entire show. You pick the student, you tell them what to do, you point out every mistake. Your voice is the soundtrack of the activity. But look at the no control column. Your role totally flips. You let them organize, you don't jump in with answers, you actually sit back and just watch. It's a pretty stark difference, huh? You go from being the main character to being part of the audience.
Okay, now for a really crucial piece of advice. If your students are used to you guiding them every single step of the way, this sudden freedom might feel weird to them, maybe even a little chaotic at first. They're going to look to you for help and might get frustrated when you don't give it. So the key is to try this out first with a class where you already have a really strong rapport. A group you know and trust.
Okay, so you've done it. You ran the experiment, you gathered your observations, your data. Now comes the most important part of this whole thing. Actually sitting down and reflecting on what happened. And here are some questions to guide that thinking. Be honest.
Did that chaos you were afraid of actually happen? For you personally, what was harder, being in total control or having no control at all? And what about your students? Did they rise to the occasion? How did the way they talked to each other change? And hey, if the no-control task did kind of fall apart, what do you think the real reasons were? This is where the real light bulbs start to go off.
If you find this whole process eye-opening, and I have a feeling you will, don't just stop there. This little 3-step experiment is really just the beginning of a whole new way of thinking about your job in that classroom.
So, how could you push this even further? Well, you could give them a problem and just refuse to step in until they've worked it out themselves. Or what about a listening lesson where you literally hand the remote control over to a student? You could even try starting a lesson with just one interesting statement and let their questions, not your lesson plan, drive the whole thing. It's all about finding little ways to create real student ownership.
So, we end on this. This is the big question. It's not really about what you might give up by loosening your grip. It's about what your students might gain. By playing with that control dial, by experimenting with letting go, you're not just tweaking your teaching style, you're opening up a whole new world of possibilities for your students. The only question left is, what could they achieve if you decided to let go?